Trump did, in fact, win the election, says Maria Bartiromo, citing an unnamed intelligence source. And immediately, the media began mocking the Fox News host, saying she's pushing more conspiracy theories, desperate to cling to some kind of Donald Trump presidency. But it's just not true. The Electoral College cast their votes the other day, and they voted majority for Joe Biden. Now, many people have said the race is over. Mitch McConnell said President-elect Joe Biden. In fact, many on Newsmax said the same thing, and that's a pro-Trump channel. But the reality is, on January 6th is when the votes will be counted, and that is the final stop for the representation of the states and the people, the Senate and the House, to cast their objections. And it looks like we're going to get objections. Now, listen, I don't know who the source is for Maria Bartiromo, but the media plays this game all the time, where the New York Times had all these anonymous sources and CNN had anonymous sources. Trump is a Russian asset, they claimed. And we go through all that. That's the game they play. They're allowed to have unnamed sources making wild and preposterous claims that ultimately bear out nothing. But don't let someone on Fox News do it, because it's against the mainstream narrative. More importantly, there was a hearing today. Senators talked about fraud and heard from many witnesses. In fact, one witness asserted evidence of fraud, and Rand Paul himself said, in many ways, this election was stolen, stressing that if we don't do something about what's being presented, it'll only get worse, and we must reinforce our election laws. But I tell you why I lead with the story about Maria Bartiromo and the anonymous sourcing. It's because there's two realities, and they continue to get further and further apart, and it's only getting worse. On the right, Trump did win, they say. On the left, Trump certainly lost. On the right, they say there's clearly evidence of voter fraud. On the left, they say there's no evidence at all. And that's where they're wrong. There is evidence. But even more importantly, they say that in court, Trump has been unable to prove that any of this fraud exists. Now, let me stop right now. I don't want to say that I'm testing the boundaries of YouTube's policy on voter fraud claims, but I certainly get close to it through no fault of my own. Now, I think YouTube has said there's a news protection. If you're reporting the news and talking about it, you're allowed to say it. They just don't want you coming out and making videos claiming it definitively. I don't know what the point of that policy is, because everybody's going to be talking about it in the context of news. Now, is there evidence of widespread fraud? The answer is yes. And I can tell you this. I have personally corroborated some of the evidence from the Voter Integrity Project. It is widespread, multiple states, and I was able to independently corroborate this. Did it change the results of the election? At this point, I'm actually leaning a little bit towards probably not, but I don't know. So my opinion is irrelevant. And the reason I say probably not is because the numbers I've seen and actually corroborated are not enough to have changed the outcome. I'm sorry if that's the case and you don't like to hear it, but that's what I've seen so far. But it doesn't matter what I think. You can tell me I'm wrong, and that's acceptable. Why? The courts need to decide. The problem, as pointed out by many of the senators in this hearing, is that the courts have not ruled on the merits. They've dismissed these cases on procedural grounds, not on the merits. Meaning, when a lawsuit is presented and says, here's the evidence, the judge isn't going, wow, look at that evidence. The judge is going, you have no standing. You shouldn't be suing, or you're too late. Get out of my courtroom. We have not yet had a court actually look through the evidence. And here's where the disparate realities becomes important. When the left says that, they say Donald Trump isn't even asserting under oath that there's fraud. That's not true. The Trump campaign lawyer today at this hearing said under oath, here's all of the fraud evidence we had. Well, there you go. Is that guy lying under oath? You know, it's really funny. When a postal worker came out and claimed that he was ordered to backdate ballots, I said, get him under oath now. And some high-profile leftist was like, Tim Pool made this claim and he should retract. Retract what? The postal worker did make the claim, and we should get him under oath, because if he's lying, I want to know. I didn't say what he said was true. I said, get him under oath. If you think he's lying, you should agree with me. So it's really weird when the left pushes back saying, don't hear the evidence, don't go to the courts, and don't put these people under oath. I never said the guy was telling the truth. And these are the two realities. One where the left and the mainstream media is lying to you. There's no evidence. Don't look behind the curtain. And the other, where you have some people like me saying there's clearly evidence that we should investigate. I'm not saying it changed the result of the outcome in any capacity. And then there's other people saying, well, they think it did. Okay. Well, I would like to see I would like to see more evidence. I have corroborated some evidence, so I know it exists. I have not seen enough to say the election results were changed. But in this hearing, it was brought up. The amount of votes that are essentially asserted by the Trump campaign could have that impact. The most important outcome is, for one, yes, I don't want to get the video taken down from YouTube, but I do think it's fair to say, can we get an honest hearing on this? I think they did a good job in the Senate today, but I want to see more. Now, intro went a little long, so let's read through this before we get started. Head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's many ways you can give. The best thing you can do, share this video. Make sure people look. If you think I'm doing a good job, then you can help make sure people are getting a balanced diet in their media. Because I'm going to show you criticisms of the right in their claims, and I'm going to show you what the left is saying, and I'm going to show you what the politicians are saying to try and do a decent job to break this down. But don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Let me first show you the story from Mediaite on Maria Bartiromo. They say, you might have missed it. In all the drama of yesterday's Electoral College vote, a convention newsworthy insofar as a sitting president has refused to accept the results of an election he lost by 7 million votes. But Maria Bartiromo, a Fox anchor on Monday morning, cited an intel source declaring President Donald Trump the winner of the 2020 election. Quote, challenging election results as we wait today's Electoral College decision, an intel source telling me that President Trump did in fact win the election, Bartiromo said. They go on to say, of course, Trump did not win. Joe Biden did. That's what the Electoral College voted to certify. That's what the Electoral College voted to certify, Biden's victory. That's why Republicans like Mitch McConnell aren't thrashing against an upcoming inauguration of President Joe Biden, doing everything they can to stop it. The Trump campaign has mounted a litany of legal challenges to the election, but despite public bluster, they have yet to actually present evidence of widespread election fraud in court. That's a really interesting way to put it. They've yet to present evidence in court. That's so unfair. Give them the chance, and I'm sure they would. And you can throw it out if you don't think it's legitimate. But many of these cases that were presented by Trump, not by his allies, have been thrown out on procedural grounds. And don't get me started on the Kraken lawsuits. That was so awful and bad for Trump. I'm sorry, it's just true. The optics were just way out there. The claims were outrageous and outlandish, hard to prove even, and were presented with limited evidence. I would say limited because there's some, but not enough to make any of these claims they're making, okay? If you want to get into the deep conspiracy of the decades-long Dominion voting thing, I'm sorry, man. Look, you want to believe it, you can believe what you want to believe. But I'm telling you, the appropriate path to victory is constitutional arguments, which we're still seeing, and actually presenting this evidence under oath and going through the findings. There hasn't been a real opportunity for the Trump campaign to actually sit down and show these things. And I know this because I have seen personally the evidence from the Voter Integrity Project. And I believe it would be interesting to see. There was one instance where I believe the Trump campaign presented the evidence. I believe it was in Georgia. And again, procedural grounds got it dismissed. I don't know if any of this has strong merits because I've only seen a little bit. I would like the courts to actually look over this stuff, but I don't think they have the political willpower to do it. Well, Rand Paul certainly does and made some very bold statements from the Washington Examiner. Voter fraud happened in the election, was in many ways stolen. Now, let me stop. I think the way they're phrasing this headline is trying to push some buttons. Rand Paul and many others said, clearly there's evidence of fraud. In fact, many on the left even agree there's to a certain degree fraud. Of course, most of the mainstream media is saying there's no evidence at all. And that's just so insane. And they also had Chris Krebs testifying it was like the most secure election ever. Shut up. Come on. Listen, you want to be reasonable, come to me and say, we think there are a lot of people who are playing dirty games and probably committed fraud. We don't think it changed things. And I'll be like, I hear you. I hear you. Let's have a hearing about it or something. Because we got a lot of people complaining about these anomalies, these weird circumstances. These need to be addressed. And the ball is still rolling in terms of these challenges. It's entirely possible something changes. I just think it's astronomical that, unlikely that Trump would actually be able to pull this off. Again, that's what I think. My opinion on this. What I see happening right now is a mainstream establishment apparatus moving forward as they normally do, and Trump fighting tooth and nail. Many Republicans are abandoning him, not even willing to give him a symbolic showing of support on January 6th and just saying, no, it's over. Let me tell you, it's over on January 6th when Congress finalizes the votes. But more importantly, the actual culture war battle is over when Joe Biden steps into the White House and becomes president. Okay, you know what? No, I got to rephrase that. The electoral challenges are over on January 6th. That's when they'll count the votes and make their determination. But maybe there will be a dispute because Mo Brooks is saying he's going to challenge this. And I wouldn't be surprised after seeing this article, Rand Paul does too, in which case it may extend longer. Who knows? Even if the electoral challenges, end on the 6th, the fight in terms of this culture war battle that we're in right now isn't over until I see Joe Biden enter the White House. That's the election. OK, after that, there's actual concern that Trump will form some kind of shadow government. OK, we'll see about that. Maybe he will have some kind of network of support and a movement. Call it whatever you want. The culture war will not end with Trump leaving the White House. So we can say that the election battle procedurally ends on the 6th with some leeway for potential Supreme Court challenges after that. We're waiting for January 20th. Because, look, if it's not going to be Joe Biden and Trump can't get any victories, then it becomes Nancy Pelosi. OK, unless she doesn't get the speaker. You know what would be really funny? There's a big campaign right now from the left. Jimmy Dore, good dude, where he's trying to pressure progressives to withhold their vote for Nancy Pelosi if she doesn't give them a floor vote for Medicare for all. How insane would it be if Nancy Pelosi doesn't get the votes she needs, okay, because the progressives withhold them, and then like Kevin McCarthy becomes Speaker of the House, and then we don't get Biden or Trump, and then he becomes president? I don't want to entertain the absurdities, okay? But let me show you what Rand Paul said. The Examiner reports, Senator Rand Paul railed against voter fraud in the 2020 election during a Senate hearing, saying voter fraud happened. The election was in many ways stolen. He said the fraud happened. The Kentucky Republicans said in a Wednesday Senate hearing on the election security. The election in many ways was stolen, and the only way it'll be fixed is by in the future reinforcing laws. We can't just say it didn't happen. Paul said about fraud allegations across the country. We can't just say, 4,000 people voted in Nevada that were non-citizens, and we're just going to ignore it. Again, I think the Examiner is positioning quotes from Rand Paul in a way to make it seem like he's saying fraud changed the election. I don't think that's what he was saying. I watched this. I think he was trying to refer more broadly to a lot of rule changes and things like that. But I'll tell you this. The Trump campaign presented these statements under oath. OK, I tell you what, if that dude, what's his name? Binal, I think his name was. If he lied under oath, then I want to see him locked up and I want to see the key thrown away. OK, not really. It's perjury, but I want him to be locked up because I don't want anyone subverting our institutions and stealing an election. If Trump lost, he lost. Goodbye. I'm not happy about it. I don't like Biden. But look, it's a political battle beyond just an election. It's a culture war. And there's got to be tact and there's got to be some kind of, I guess you've got to play tactfully. I'll put it that way. If Trump can't win, he can't win. And the last thing I think we want is full-on conflict, though many people seem to want to. But I'll put it this way. If this guy says under oath, and he did, they were sworn into this hearing, Ron Johnson stood up, said, everyone raise your right hand and say, and they did. Okay, then. At least that's my understanding. I watched it. It looked like they were under oath. He made these claims. Check this out. The Nevada election was inevitably riddled with fraud, attorney Jay Binal alleges. Over 42,000 people voted more than once. At least 1,500 dead people are recorded as voting. More than 19,000 people voted even though they didn't live in Nevada. Interesting. I'd like to see the evidence. Why don't they publish the evidence? I'll tell you what. There are concerns from the Voter Integrity Project. This is Matt Brainerd. We had him on the show on the IRL podcast. It was fantastic. And he said, look, I can't just publish the names of all this information because I'd be doxing people. I'll get banned. He's right. If you've got people whose, addresses are in these databases and you're accusing them of possibly voting twice, you're not definitively proving, anything. And there's a serious challenge. Are innocent people going to be harmed by you publishing addresses and information because you believe that they voted twice? And maybe they didn't. Maybe it's just a bunch of people with the same names and birthdays and, similar addresses. Yeah, I don't think so, but it is a challenge. But I'll tell you what, if you've got evidence, it needs to be published. I'm sorry, it does. And, it's a tough one. Releasing people's private information. If you are making these very serious allegations and releasing this information can change things for the better and help people, you need to do something beyond just saying you have it. Sorry. I know they've tried to go to court, and they typically get thrown out for no standing, or the judges refuse to look at the evidence. In Nevada, I believe, they absolutely refused to look at the evidence. It was shocking, actually. And so until we have it in a court, we're going to keep hearing from the media it doesn't exist. Well, we can say it exists, but it needs to be evaluated. That's what I want to happen. I will tell you this. I have looked over some of the evidence, and I'll tell you what's really fascinating. In the Voter Integrity Project's data, which I did get to look at, and I did get to corroborate some of this information, I corroborated it independently. So I'll put it this way. One of the things that they were doing, I'm trying to be careful, was taking publicly available data from multiple states. Without looking at that data, I was able to corroborate addresses of certain individuals. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. Maybe I'm probably not. But long story short, I corroborated it. I'm trying to be very, very careful. But I looked at it and I was like, wow. Through independent databases and multiple databases, I corroborate some of this information. It's not a definitive accusation. I'm not naming anybody specifically. But that needs to go to court, man. The stuff I saw, that needs to go to court. But if it doesn't, and if on procedural grounds, that's what they're saying in these hearings, they said the cases from the Trump campaign and from his allies were dismissed on procedural grounds, not on the merits, we've got a problem. Ron Johnson made an excellent point. He said, he mentioned that 4 years ago, people did not respect the results of the election. They said that Trump didn't win. It was Russian interference. And again, we're hearing the same thing. It's unsustainable. He's right. He's being fair. Why are the Democrats fighting so hard to block this? That is rather freaky, but they are. And it's a very serious problem because you cannot tell half the country to just accept you're going to accuse the president of being a Russian agent. And then when this stuff pops up and the Trump campaign says, here we go, here's evidence, you say, nope, no, there isn't. Plug in my ears. People are going to be like, we have a right to be heard. And if they're not, then I only imagine things are going to get crazier. But look, we've got action still going on. This is from the official website of the Arizona State Senate Republican Caucus. Statement from Senate President Fan on subpoenas issued to Maricopa County, December 15th. Quote, today, under my direction as Senate President, Judiciary Committee Chairman Eddie Farnsworth issued subpoenas to the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors. One subpoena calls for a scanned ballot audit to collect an electronic ballot image cast for all mail-in ballots counted in the November 2020 general election in Maricopa County, Arizona. The second subpoena calls for a full forensic audit of ballot tabulation equipment, the software for that equipment, and the election management systems used in the 2020 general election. The Maricopa County Board of Supervisors were served these subpoenas on Tuesday afternoon, and they call for the information to be delivered to the Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman on or before 5 p.m. December 18th, 2020. I appreciate Board Chairman Clint Hickman's commitment to the integrity of the Arizona election process, and I know he shares all of our concerns. So the ball's still rolling. Okay, you've got action being taken in Michigan. They're trying to audit. I think they're doing some subpoenas. I'm not sure. But we saw that report that came out from Antrim County about the Dominion voting machines. You can argue the man is biased. You can say all these awful things. I don't care. Look, you want to claim, but he's a Republican, so you don't trust him. Then why should I trust you? You're a Democrat. You see how this works? If someone comes out with a document under oath, making a statement, and I read it, I say, okay, well, then you better investigate and do something. But there's no solution. There isn't. What they're doing here may net something interesting. I'm not convinced Trump will win. And what I mean by this is I often say is I'm not talking about the vote count. I'm talking about Trump versus the machine. I just don't see him winning. Maybe he doesn't lose either, though. Maybe he walks away with 70 or 60 million Trump supporters and the Republican Party is gone. I think that's something Republicans need to consider. A new political party, because and the left, progressives and the leftists, they got to do the same thing. Democrats don't care about you. Republicans don't care about anybody else. All right. We need some change in this country. But let me put it this way. The report from Antrim comes out and it says definitively bad things happened. I'll put it that way. Votes were being flipped, they claim. Why should I just assume it's fake news? The left is going to claim it's a lie, and they'll come out with their report saying it's a lie. And then we have two reports, one saying it's true, one saying it's false. Pick one. What do? People will choose what they trust, and confidence is being shattered. That's the important thing here. Do people have confidence in the system? And that's why the media keeps saying it's dangerous what Trump is doing. Not if Trump is fighting for political and literal survival. Not if the people who support Trump would rather be in exile under Trump than under the American system. People are going to fight for their own interests. And at a certain point, they say, I have no confidence in you, and I would risk everything to oppose you. So when they say it's dangerous, I say, isn't it dangerous to shut down investigations and the anger, the court cases of these individuals? Wouldn't it be safer to say, you are my brother, my sister, my friend, my family in this country. We work together. I understand you're upset. Let me hear what you have to say. The Democrats should be saying, friends, you lost this one. But I tell you what, please bring your evidence to a court and let the judge see it. And we will break down whether or not something bad happened. If you really cared about this country and what the will of the people was, you would absolutely say, let's have an honest assessment. But for some reason, we're not getting that. For some reason, we have two disparate realities. One in which the New York Times gets to use all the anonymous sources in the world, and another where the moment someone comes out with an anonymous source, they say, oh, it's just pure ridiculous garbage and conspiracy nonsense. Well, let me tell you, the media, you got a hard reckoning coming. CNN and MSNBC fret over post-Trump future. Ratings have hit new highs, but executives and journalists at both networks are uneasy about the year ahead. Oh, I love it. They know the Trump bump's in trouble. The media should actually be fighting for Trump. I say this. They can't, though, because their bread and butter is Orange Man bad. But they should at least find some way to complain about Trump while helping him if they want to make money. I'm kidding. I don't think they should actually do this. But wouldn't it be funny if CNN was like, this is shocking. Trump is awful and everything, but look at all this fraud. Oh, no. Then they get their Trump bump back. They're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. They're going to keep lying because they're milking what they can get out of the remaining Trump time. Maybe Trump's going to pardon some people. They can continue to freak out about it, but they love the Trump bump. The Washington Post has a better take. They say, journalists, it's time for a cold turkey breakup with Trump. Yeah, that's one way to put it. How about it's time for a cold turkey breakup a long time ago? All right. Here we have from Michelle Malkin, a tweet that I think absolutely represents, sentiment of many Trump supporters. She says, swamp GOP. We'll abolish the Department of Education later. We'll defund NPR later. Secure the borders later. Repeal Obamacare later. Repeal Section 230 later. End voter fraud later. We'll fulfill our promises never. And why it's good old Charlie Brown going to kick the football, but it's pulled away from him every single time. Well, bravo, traditional Republicans who believe in, actual conservative values, and bravo, Trump supporters. All of you who thought the Republicans would fight for you, getting a hard lesson. But I don't think that's most Trump supporters. I think most Trump supporters have hated the Republican establishment as much as the Democrat establishment for some time. They just had a vehicle in the Republican Party with Trump as the head of that party. Well, now that the Republicans are gleefully cheering that's the end of the Trump era, Trump supporters are going to go with them, and y'all aren't going to get elected again. You see, Trump brought in new voters, but he also converted Republicans to the Trump party. I don't see them winning in Georgia. I don't. And I got to be honest, I don't see Trump supporters caring. Maybe they do. Maybe there are a lot of Republicans who are going to care. But I look at what's going on with Georgia, and I see more people saying, I want Trump to win. I don't care about the Republican Party. Good. I don't care about the Republican Party either. I don't know if Trump is going to win, but there's one way he might. Republican NC State Senator. Trump should invoke the Insurrection Act. My friend, it is not over. And I tell you this, when they say it's dangerous that Trump is challenging the results of the election and all that stuff, no, it's not dangerous. It's part of the constitutional legal process, and Trump should go through the motions to the best of his abilities. And if the Republicans support him, then they will raise objections. It's all part of the constitutional process. What am I going to complain about? We actually have a day on January 6th and a process by which people can object. Good for them. Argue against them, fine, but they should do it if they feel like they should. Seems like Mo Brooks and Rand Paul may be the two to come together to raise that objection. We'll see. I'll tell you what's dangerous. When you tell them to shut up, when you say, we don't care, you don't exist, blah, 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 I'm going to plug my ears, you get this. Trump should not invoke the Insurrection Act. That would be a declaration of civil war. And I don't want to see that. As much as I can complain about Antifa and the autonomous zones and all this other garbage, I just want to, and I think most people do, want to live their lives and fight for the greater good. But, take care of yourselves, your friends, and your family. The culture war may be getting too insane for this. But come on. Now we've got, as of this morning, Trump should invoke the Insurrection Act as a Republican NC state senator. We saw 20 states line up against 20 other states with 4 disputed in the middle. Just arguing over who the president should be. 126 Republican House members signed on in support of that suit. You think come January 6th, they're all just going to be like, okay, I'm done. Mitch McConnell is begging Republicans, please don't object and support the president. Because Mitch McConnell never cared about you or anybody else. Mitch McConnell is the same as he's always been. Now, I can give him credit for getting all those judges on. I guess good for him. I don't care about Mitch McConnell. And I've always said, never really liked the guy. What do the Republicans do? Obstruct? That's what they do. They obstruct. But are they fighting for hard causes? Look, I think repealing Section 230 is a bad idea. But it's Tulsi Gabbard, the Democrat, who's proposing reform to 230. Amazing. Isn't that amazing how much the Republicans, or I should say the Trump supporters who have supported the Republican Party, have been demanding action on 230 for years? And it's Tulsi Gabbard, literally a Democrat, who came out and said, we want to address Section 230 reform. Brilliant. You see why I like Tulsi? She's great. She is. I'm not going to pretend like she or Rand are perfect. But man, do they get my respect? I think, Tulsi Gabbard's getting dragged pretty heavily by the far left. But look, she's the one who's actually coming out and saying, I see people feel like they're being repressed or oppressed or suppressed. Then let's get this bill. Let's get some reform. Where are the Republicans? They controlled everything for 2 years in 2016. They couldn't get anything done. Okay. Now they have the Senate. Once the Democrats took the House, then it was it. And I'm sure the establishment was so happy. The Republicans were like, now we can have a real excuse for not doing anything. Appointing judges, sure. In the end, what do we get? 2016 to 2018. You see, the Republican establishment was leaving, retiring, quitting, and they hated Trump. The party had been taken over. Good. The Republicans don't care for him. You know what I want to see? I want to see a populist left-wing party and a populist right-wing party. And I want to see people actually talk about what's right for Americans. And that's why when I see Ocasio-Cortez tweeting that we need relief for the American people, I'm like, she's correct. Respect. Please keep fighting, Ocasio-Cortez. We need this. And it was Josh Hawley, a Republican, and Bernie who came together to get these stimulus checks pushed out. And it may actually happen, hopefully. That's a Republican and Democrat, both of the people who are saying we're going to do this. Josh Hawley, I think, is a rad dude as well. Or at least, he's been fighting for a lot of important causes like on Section 230 and now for the stimulus package with Bernie. I love it. I love to see people come together left and right and be like, we're going to fight because we agree on these things. It's the broken establishment. It's Nancy Pelosi who's like, I'm not going to get a stimulus package because Trump's the president. And then she was getting ragged on by Democrats for blocking things up. Republicans caved in a bunch of different ways. Not that I like them either. I like the people who represent the people, who say, I want to make sure that your life is better, that I'll fight for what you believe in. And though we may disagree many times, I'm always readily available to listen and actually stand up for your interests, not the interests of massive multinational corporations. That's what we get. So ultimately, look, I don't trust Bernie Sanders that much. I don't. But I would love to see new political parties. We've gone down this path of trying to usurp the existing establishment. I don't think it's going to work in the long run. Bernie kissed the boots of the Democratic establishment. And how far has that gotten him? He helped Joe Biden win. And now Joe Biden's like, bye-bye. Donald Trump fought tooth and nail, became president. And then Mitch McConnell is like, I'm going to stab me on the back, figuratively. And that's what we get. There's got to be something different. And I don't want it to be conflict. It needs to be just a new political party or something different. But hey, in the end, Maria Bartiromo says her intel source confirmed to her, Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. Look, don't hold your breath. Joe Biden it's 99.999% likely for Joe Biden. Does Trump have the ability to get lightning to strike 3 times while winning the lottery? It can happen. And when I say it can happen, it's because of course it can. This is a country of human beings, and confidence is everything. Just because there's an official seal on something doesn't make it official. You know what I love? You can buy fake diplomas, and no one's going to know they're fake. Not even kidding. How would anyone know? And that's the issue. It's all about confidence. Can you convince people? Will they have confidence in you? Things could change dramatically. Don't say it can't happen here. We'll see how things play out. Next segment's coming up tonight, 8 p.m. We'll see. It is a blizzard out there on the East Coast, and I'm out in the middle of nowhere. So in the mountains, we get a lot of snow. We get no roads. So we're going to have to figure something out. But come hang out, 8 p.m. live, youtube.com/TimCastIRL. We should be hanging out with, I believe we have Jack Murphy on tonight. Cool dude. You probably like him, and he'll be hanging out with us, assuming he can make it here. I think he'll be all right. But again, check out the next segment live, 8 p.m., youtube.com/TimCastIRL, and I will see you all then.